Just ask my lovely bride. I have a tendency to forget things quite often.
You remembered your pin this morning.
I did. I'm supporting Portland teachers because I get yelled at if I don't have it on like
I had your back.
all day long.
I had your back.
Everywhere
When
I
you came
go.
in.
My wife is a teacher, and she's not just a teacher. She's Russian, so she gets feisty. But I support my Portland teachers. So I got my pin on. She came in. They're doing their picketing, and then she came in, warmed up, got some lunch, and she's back at it again.
She was very jealous of our lunchroom.
She is. Yeah.
Was she
we don't use it.
Yeah, say we eat out here in the open like animals. We don't ever use our very incredibly nice kitchen.
It's all the way at the other end of the building.
It is.
You know, they have these tables set up right outside the studios.
Has Swag used his swag hole to cook yet?
No. The people don't know what the swag hole is, and I'll let everybody know. If you maybe have heard this like a year ago, the swag hole is a thing, and it was something that he discussed with our Supreme Leader Kim.
Wow, that's Supreme Leader Kim, huh? That's pretty. Is that what the pillow's for?
See what I did there? Supreme Leader Kim Martinez, not.
That
I know what
Kim.
you guys are thinking.
Not that one.
Supreme Leader Kim,
not Jong-un
Martinez or ill. Supreme Leader Kim Martinez was talking to us as they were building this whole building out, and Swag. It was at the Fan Golf Classic. It was at the golf tournament, and Swag had gotten a little liquored up, and he was really pushing, like it was over the top, wanting what he would call it. It wasn't the swag hole. It was the swag jack.
Ah, yes.
I'm not sure that's any better.
It's not. It's not. But when I heard he asked Supreme Leader Kim for the swag jack, and I looked over at him. I said, "Excuse me," and that's when I got in on this conversation, and it will live in infamy because he was asking for a port that he could put a headset into, plug into, and he wanted to cook on the radio. He wanted the ability to do cooking segments on the radio.
Well, I mean, maybe we can move it over to our YouTube. You know, there we go.
We could do it now.
That's our branding part of
We
this.
could do it. We have the cameras. They've caught Buck stealing energy drinks before,
and they've also caught my Grubhub thief.
They did.
We love cameras here.
Yeah.
But also,
we do already have a 3-hour television show that we air on the radio right before us.
Yeah.
Also true.
Check out this film. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah. Yeah. Watch this film. But no, Swag was like, I can cook, and like he could do like tailgating segments, and it'll be on the radio. And I was like, that's cool, but you could just like give us your recipes.
I think the move here is to go. Have you seen like the Danny DeVito Jersey Mike's commercials where he goes around with a vacuum and he's just taking the sizzle to go?
Oh.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, he has like a big backpack vacuum.
I do enjoy the one where he has the ponytail and the saxophone.
Yes, also very good. But he goes over to the grill as they're like, they have the hot subs there, and he vacuums up the sizzle.
Get out of town.
He takes it home. So there you go. You could we could have a sizzle mic.
I just had Jersey Mike's cheesesteak the other day too.
Jersey Mike's is a solid sandwich.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It is.
This is controversial, and I know it'll a lot of backlash. Not a big sub guy. Not a big sub guy. I am pro.
I do a lot of sandwiches.
One thing I was I like. Okay, sandwiches are good. I like a good sandwich, but like I'm not. If I'm going chain, I was more of a Quiznos guy. We got those R.I.P. Quiznos. Firehouse is also a good one where they cook the sub. Like I'm a warm sub guy.
I'm 100% with you.
Yeah.
When I get mine from Capriotti's, it's always the grilled Italian. So like I'm right there with you.
See, but that is a different level than the quick sub. I'm talking like I'm not a big quick sub guy.
No, even Capriotti's is a chain.
Yeah, really?
Yeah,
but it's not like a.
Oh yeah, it's a chain. Like it's not like it's a couple. Like they're all over the place.
But I think like there's levels, right?
Sure. Yeah,
there's levels. There's levels. Like I'm not just saying this because I'm a Victorino's guy, but Victorino's a step up from Taco Bell and all of that. Like
100%.
there's levels to your quick food that you get,
and they make a mean torta.
Yes, they do.
God, they're
Yes.
freaking breakfast burritos they had at the golf tournament. Oh God, those were good.
Kidding me? Chorizo.
I don't know what they do to their tortillas, and their red sauce is incredible.
The red sauce is.
They have the best
my,
fast
my,
food red sauce that I've come across.
Yeah, my refrigerator's full of it.
Oh, why is mine not?
You could have yours. It's not because I have like a special hookup. It's that we ask for a couple extra red sauces
Toss
every
in
time we
there,
go,
yeah.
and
You hoard them.
we literally go all the time. So it's like we just have we got them all there.
There's
and
a,
it's been like that way for years in our refrigerator.
So living in Newburgh, there's not a ton of options for the old Sandos. That's
Yeah.
just the Subway, and then they're putting in a Jersey Mike's. Like that's
Okay.
that's the upgrade. But there's an Italian spot called Ross Marino. It's always packed. It's where all the out of towners come in. Eat. It's a very high level Italian
Sure.
spot. So all the people come into town for the wine. And
Oh, I know where that is. Is that's as
Right
you're
there on the-
leaving
yeah, right there-
town,
right there on the strip.
right
Yep.
where it narrows out. Yeah,
Yep.
I know. I've been there.
Tiny little spot right there in Old Town Newburgh. Food is incredible, like
Yeah.
from scratch, everything. Right? They opened up a little delicatessen, and so the
Mm.
wife and I went there this weekend, and they had fresh everything sandwiches, like paninis.
Yeah.
And so it was like fresh cut prosciutto with like imported Italian prosciutto and fresh cut fontina on fresh made baguettes and like the fire roasted tomatoes that were made like right then. And like they were the most insane paninis I've ever had in my entire life, and they were only $10. And I need them to not wait until noon to be open.
Did anybody else notice that his voice changed? Like he was like talking dirty to everybody out there when he was doing that. There was like a weird cadence to the way that you talking. When you said the word delicatessen, like you put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable,
Talk to me dirty.
and it was like once you said that word, all of a sudden your voice changed and you went into like talking dirty Italian meats.
Oh, man.
Danny Meringue.
You can get a
Holy smokes!
you can get a bolognese like
Yeah.
from scratch to go. Like
Wow.
you have that you can have some basil pesto. I mean, this place, our sales guy Joe Fish has been in there too. It is to die for.
Listen to you over here.
To
Also,
die for.
Shout out
Listen to you.
Giraldi's in Beaverton too.
There you
That's a
go.
good
There's
one.
there's the OG spot.
And also this texter on the Vancouver Ford text line, the Beaverton substation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that was
Tremendous.
Beer and Substation was my father-in-law's old restaurant.
Oh, really?
Yes. So
That place was good. They had the
Yeah.
milkshake place, the ice cream place on the other side,
yeah, he
right?
sold it off a couple years ago.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
Mm.
it.
That whole downtown Beaverton area, that is a turnaround and a big come up that
Yeah.
they've had. Because like all it used to be was like a Mary Jane's House of Glass.
That whole triangular building, that's my father-in-law's building. So it's
Yeah.
a historic landmark in Beaverton.
The
and
old
the
Sens
stars
driving-
right down the street.
The old Sens
Well, that
drive-in
one got
dairy when I was a
closed.
kid.
Yeah, the stars got closed because they were doing things
Yeah.
Like
beyond what
trafficking?
they're not supposed to. Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, like from going to the area where it was like you had like a Stars, Planned Parenthood, and Mary Jane's House of Glass
And Hooters.
into what is now like a really nice area to
Yeah.
like go out and have dinner
Yeah.
and drinks, and that whole area is really picked up. You got like the Big's Chicken is over there.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that place so much.
Funny coincidence. The story itself of why I was home was not great. My mom had cancer when I was in Afghanistan, and I got my commanders like, "Go home, dude." So they put me on a plane to go
Was
home.
that part? Like, that's very sad. Like
Yeah,
that,
it is.
That ruined. Like how everybody's
Yes.
thinking about that is part of like your story.
She's fine, but
I don't think it was a necessary part of the story, Danny.
but I came home on leave, and it was the same weekend that Hooters opened. And
It
so-
definitely was not necessary as part of the story.
Okay, but I'm saying
Gotta set
this,
the whole scene.
you
My
do.
mom had cancer, so I went to Hooters.
No, so I was at the hospital.
Oh, even worse.
I was at the hospital, and everybody's there like, go literally anywhere else but here. Like, you're not doing good here. Like, you're, and I had a buddy. He's like, hey, the Hooters in Beaverton opened up, and I was like, sure, why not? We went there. The line for that place when it opened up wrapped around the building. Fortunately, or unfortunately, half the people that worked there I went to high school with.
oh my
So they
gosh.
came and brought us in front of the line and took my mind off what was a horrible trip home.
Nothing like being a VIP at Hooters.
Right on opening weekend. It was certainly an interesting trip.
I think we broke Dusty. My mom had cancer, so we went to Hooters.
My mom and I got to cut the line because I grew up with all of them that were working there. You ever told somebody you was in kindergarten with to have the chicken breast hold the chicken?
Oh man.
All right. Well, somehow, some way, we shall recover. I don't think we will. One text that came in, Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6326. Danny DeVito is the man. That just came in.
That's just the truth.
Has there been an actor who has had like the pivot that we've seen Danny DeVito have?
Boy.
Because he was in Taxi, and he
Yeah.
was great in Taxi.
Yeah.
Twins is, of course,
Twins.
a legend.
He was the Penguin.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he started on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia season 2, I mean, his arc just went from like being Danny DeVito, which was character actor, short guy, funny, to being the worst human being of all time. That is absolutely hilarious. In that, like, I don't know if anybody could quite pull it off the way that Danny DeVito did.
that up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really the first villain. That's not true.
Well, he wasn't. Yeah.
No, because the comic movies, it wasn't.
He was the Penguin.
He was, but
He's
he
the
wasn't the
Penguin.
first great one because Jack as Joker was the first.
Yeah.
That was. I mean, they were still doing the comic booky stuff, but that was the first home run villain was Jack Nicholson's Joker.
Gosh.
But DeVito's Penguin was great. It was a terrible movie, but it was great.
Yeah, I like Danny DeVito. I'm pro Danny DeVito.
Yes, I would like more Danny. How old is Danny DeVito? Because it feels like he's just been in the zeitgeist.
He's got to be in his
like,
70s.
Yeah, so he feels like he's been around forever.
Well, and there was a movie apparently like early 90s or something. I want to say it was Matilda. And something happened to the child actress in this movie to her parents. And so Danny
He's
DeVito and Rhea Perlman basically adopted her and have made sure that she's never wanted for anything in her entire life since that movie. So for 30 some years. And yeah,
See?
taking care
That
of
is amazing.
That's wild. He is 78. Also,
And his wife, Rita Perlman, Carla
Carla Tortelli.
from Cheers.
Yeah.
She's fantastic
70,
too.
75 years old.
Wow.
And also the creator of Barbie in the Barbie movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
The actress
Not
that-
the
yeah,
actual
yes.
creator of Barbie.
I was like-
Danny's head was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
Huh?
I was
That's
like,
why I said in the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
but yeah, official listed height of Danny DeVito, 4'10".
Wow. That is, I mean, I knew he was short. I didn't realize he was that short.
What is, okay.
4'8".
Okay. Yeah, you know, right off the top of your head there. He knew it. He knew
Now,
it.
what do you think the odds are? Because that's because Danny went to some midget wrestling. And he's like, no, this guy's too tall.
Danny has 100% gotten somebody DQ'd because of that.
You have to finish the question.
Yeah.
I knew where he was going. Immediately knew where he was going.
Well, we all knew. I knew that you had it. I knew that you had it holstered for us.
The reason I know this is I went to a girl in high school, and she.
I hope
so-
that this isn't as sad as
No.
the twist that your Hooters story took.
No. She always used to joke. She's like, I'm just tall enough to not have to claim that.
Oh,
She was just tiny,
okay.
just tiny.
All right. So she'd be like, no.
Yeah. Somebody like, are you a And no, I'm
A little
I'm-
person,
no,
not a little person, just a short
I'm
person.
4'10".
All right.
I don't claim that.
Dan. Okay. Well, that was the question that I was going
Mhm.
for. And we had answers there.
Wild thing is, she'd put on 2-inch heels and still be 5 foot.
That's how math works.
Pretty incredible.
That's incredible.
Pretty incredible.
That's incredible. All right. Well, yeah, I'm with this texture. We do need to get Danny DeVito to stand next to Wemby because I would love to see that.
Does he make it to his waist?
Oh, God, no.
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 Have you seen the picture of Wemby and Reggie Miller back to back?
No, but I do have Wemby. I have Wemby in the notes for today.
Mm.
Okay? Because he didn't Ichiro the situation, and we'll talk about it
Ooh.
today. And somebody got a ricochet shot that I think is our worst hit on the web out of this whole thing. It was a horrific ricochet shot out of Wemby. So we will have that today. We will have our Ryan Horvat, Bet MGM, the host of Bet MGM tonight, our BetQL Network insider. He'll join us at 1:30, as he always does on Wednesdays. We'll start taking a look at the weekend of college football as well. The new college football playoff rankings are out, and everybody's all hot and bothered over what Greg McElroy said. We'll let you know if you haven't heard it yet, and I'll tell you why he's not wrong. He's not. He really isn't. But where we got to start this bad boy off, we have Antonio Morales of The Athletic. He joins us at 12:30 for an early look at Oregon and USC. How much could change just 5 days out post Alex Grinch era? This is Danny and Dusty on The Fan. am the fan. Like, subscribe, do all that. And the comment section is always an adventure. Shall we call it an adventure?
I think that's fair.
That's a safe way to categorize it.
I can't comment on the YouTube stream for some reason.
You just need to sign in.
That's what I need to do?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I get in there and comment under my Googles.
Your Googles?
Well, because it's all the same
Is it?
thing.
Yeah, Google is YouTube. YouTube is Google. Finkel is Einhorn.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No way.
Alphabet Company.
Who knew?
That's who cuts my check.
Well, apparently most people did.
Yeah.
Not me. But you go in there. I guess I'll sign in right meow. Wait, why am I not signed in? What the hell's going on
Work
here?
laptop.
All right. Anyways, you could be part of that that comment section right there, and it's a glimpse. It really is a glimpse into what the text line is like, except for we can see your names and not just your phone numbers.
Yes.
But
Don't get me wrong. I can find who you are.
yeah, we know. One thing about the text line that is the YouTube comments are just a microcosm of what the text line is.
Yeah, 100%.
The text line is a completely different planet, and it gets inundated. But you get a glimpse of kind of what we see on the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. So be a part of the program. All right, let's do it. All right, USC Oregon, Pac-12 after dark. It's going to get weird in Eugene. These games always do, and Oregon SC is always a fun matchup because it used to be this game was all the guys that went to Oregon used to be all the guys that didn't get recruited by USC, and there was like that little chip on the shoulder, and it was us against the team that I grew up in your backyard. And you didn't even offer me, and you didn't recruit me. I'm going to show you that I am better, and I can play on the same stage. This has evolved into what Dan Lanning didn't even hide from. This is two heavyweights of the West Coast in the recruiting game.
Yeah, I think every game around here matters, right? And I think certainly this one, especially the amount of time we spend recruiting in California. I think the battles that exist, just in every sport, between our universities. This is one that obviously means a lot to a lot of people. But I can promise you, nobody wants to win this game more than myself and our players. They're working really hard for a great result on Saturday, and obviously it's a really good team that we have to go play.
It's a recruiting battle. This is a recruiting battle.
100%.
Make no mistake about it. Like, you got the two of the best recruiters on the West Coast. And that's not to disrespect Washington. Just look at the data.
It is what it is.
Look at the recruiting rankings. This is a far more meaningful game. And that's a cool evolution of this matchup together. But it has a whole lot more riding on it because of the fact that, look, Alex Grinch was fired. He was fired on Sunday, and much to the happiness of Danny Moraine. But the question is, like, how much could possibly change in 5 days by just adding Sean Nua and Brian Odom as your defensive coordinators?
Functionally, there could
Yeah.
be some different stuff as far as how they go about it, simplifying game plans, aggressiveness, passiveness, play calling.
See,
But
and
as far as the responsibilities, the attention to detail, that kind of stuff, I don't know how much you're going to see that. I mean, the other part of this world is looking at something as simple as, not simple, but a very, I can't draw straight lines, NFL college, but with McDaniels being dismissed, how different the Raiders looked.
But that is, I think, what is the big difference here is that you had a roster, like the Raiders were underperforming
Sure.
by any metric, right? And there were things that they did where it was just like they showed they didn't care. USC is a bad tackling team.
Yes.
And there's the adage is like, if you are a bad tackling team, you will not become just a better tackling team
No.
overnight.
Especially when it's like a coaching change.
And to put it into context, USC has 112 missed tackles this year.
Weren't they like around that 112th in tackling?
They are 102nd in tackling this season with 112 missed tackles. And to put that into context, like Oregon, who they're facing this week, is one of the best tackling teams in the country. They only have 62 missed tackles this year. And you add that to Bucky Irving has forced 44 missed tackles this year. He's one of the leaders in the country in forcing missed tackles. Jordan James is a yard after contact machine. I think both of those guys have they average the exact same number, 4.03 yards after contact. Is 4 yards after contact is what they average this season.
That's if you're getting 4 yards a carry, you're doing good.
Now that is now you're going up against one of the worst tackling teams in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's something that it doesn't change in 5 days. To what you're saying, what can change? I think schematically, and that's what you hear both Nua and Odom are saying, is that we're going to go to the line and we're only going to have like one play called, and we're just going to make it simple. Because I think this is the biggest disconnect with Alex Grinch, and why I was like, Alex Grinch really isn't the whole issue here. Mm-hmm. The players couldn't execute a complex game plan.
Sure.
The if-then of football, right? If they do this, then we do this. And when you're on defense, you are reactionary, right?
And you saw just very simple clinical breakdowns over and over and over again of Damani Jackson against Washington. The second quarter, they complete. It's a 5-star commit, a guy that was, I think he was the highest rated corner in the country in his class last year.
Yep.
Forgets about Rome Odunze.
That would be a guy I would remember.
Like that's.
I think the game plan was always know where number one is.
The 6'3", 225-pound guy who runs a 4.3 40 and is probably the second best receiver in the country. Bracket him.
Can we talk about that catch that Odunze had on the final drive of that game at some point?
Good Lord.
Did you? What that was incredible.
I mean,
and then he just kind of just got up and just stared at the DB like,
good luck.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. But I mean, the fact that that's not getting through people's heads, that's also part of coaching.
Yeah.
And if you are trying to do stuff, look, if you want to, for basketball fans, people were like, why aren't the Blazers more aggressive? It's like, well, that was because they had Yusuf Nurkic.
Yeah.
Now they have it with DeAndre Ayton, and look how different it looks.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to match your personnel. You can't just force your scheme on guys. And if guys can't run it, like the number of times, look, Mason Cobb is probably the only guy on that defense that I trust to make tackles. He was second in the nation in tackles last year at Oklahoma State. He's a very sure tackler. The number of times I've seen him in drop coverage on a wide receiver blows my mind.
Yeah.
Why are you taking your surest tackler on the field and putting him on a slot guy?
Yeah. When
you know that as soon as a team sees him vacate, they're going, time to run.
Yep.
And those are the kind of things that killed me, because the number of big plays, you would see it happen. You would see it happen every single time.
That's not changing in 5 days, because this is just as much as they have a depth issue, it's a personnel issue of understanding conceptually what you're trying to achieve.
Scheme concept.
Defensively.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change. And we'll find out come Saturday how far along they are in what this change means, because keeping it simple, not necessarily the best thing to do when you're going up against a guy who started more games than any other quarterback in all of college football's history. Let's take a diver deep into USC. Antonio Morales covers the team for The Athletic. He joins us next. First, Big Kahuna. He's got Sports Center.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Your new floors are in stock and ready to install at PG Long, your Northwest flooring experts, pglongllc.com. First on The Fan, the top 8 of the second college football playoff rankings remains the same as the first. Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, and Florida State are your current 4-team playoff. Washington and Oregon remain at 5 and 6. Elsewhere in the Pac-12, Oregon State leaps 4 spots to number 12. Utah stays at 18. Arizona enters the rankings at 21, while both UCLA and USC drop out. Trailblazers are back at it tonight. They start a 3-game road trip at the Kings. No Scoot Henderson, Robert Williams, or Anthony Simon. 7 o'clock tip on Root Sports. The Blazers are 7.5-point underdogs. Ian Rappaport of NFL Network reporting the practice window for Vikings receiver Justin Jefferson is being opened this week, meaning the team has 21 days to activate him after landing on injured reserve with a hamstring injury. NFL Network reporting Patriots cornerback J.C. Jackson not traveling with the team to Frankfurt, Germany for their game Sunday against the Colts. Jackson was demoted out of the starting lineup in Sunday's loss to the Commanders. And the Giants will start undrafted free agent Tommy DeVito at quarterback Sunday against the Cowboys, with Matt Barkley serving as the backup. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Russ at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Watch and wager on pro and college football from across the country at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Go deeper on the Trailblazers. The Rose Garden Report with host Sean Highkin. Download the Rose Garden Report on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Is Antonio Morales joining us again. Antonio, how you doing, my man?
Good. It's good to be back with you guys.
Hey, all right. It's been a weird week. There's no other way to put it down there. Lincoln Riley doing what he had been reluctant to do and said he didn't want to do earlier this season, parting ways with defensive coordinator Alex Grinch after giving up 52 spot to Washington on Saturday. What went into that process, and kind of where are we at now Wednesday, a few days removed from Grinch's firing?
Well, I think it had to be done. It's not just the 52 to Washington. It was the 49 they gave up the week before to Cal. And the 34 they gave to Bryson Barnes in Utah the week before that, and the 41, and they gave to Colorado and Arizona. It's just been an accumulation of things dating back to the second half of last year when the defense really fell apart over the final 6 to 7 weeks of the season. So I think it was something that had been building up. I know Lincoln Riley wanted to give Alex Grinch a chance to see what he could do with better personnel this season, but they added talent, and the defense has gotten worse, which is kind of unimaginable. But that's the situation USC finds itself in. And, this week, I think what you hear is kind of what you hear from players and coaches when there is a change like this on the defensive side of the ball. They're trying to simplify things. I do think that isn't cliche. I think Alex Grinch had them doing too much and had them running a really complicated defense to where a lot of people just seem confused all the time.
Yep.
So I'm curious to see how that changes this week and what they do to try to simplify it.
Antonio, obviously, making this change now ahead of a game against Oregon, probably not the one you wanted to do it against. But what I hesitate to even use the word. Like, what's a salvageable week for USC in this situation now?
It's a great question because it's hard to really pinpoint what is this salvageable week. Obviously, the goal for them is to win the game, but like somebody asked me like what the score would be. This is before Grinch was fired. Like as the Washington game was going on, I was just thinking to myself, I was like, 70 is not out of the question. I'm just like Dan Lanning, and this is a big recruiting competitor that USC is a big recruiting competitor for them. He'd want to run up the score against them. So it's like 70 isn't out of the question. Now maybe it'll be a little less. I'd probably put it at like 56, 63 points. I would guess Oregon might score. It's tough to say. USC doesn't do anything well on defense. I know they touted their pass rush numbers when they were 6-0, but over the past 4 games, those pass rush numbers have fallen off a cliff. I think they had 22 sacks in the first 6 games. I think they only have 2 or 3 since then. They don't stop the run well, and that's not something you want to have as a weakness when you're about to face Oregon and Bucky Irving, and they don't stop the pass well either. So it's really hard to see how they could play well this weekend against Oregon.
Antonio, one of the things that was coming out of USC early on wasn't from the coaching staff; it was from the players about defending Grinch and going to bat for him and saying that it wasn't the play calls; it was on them. Have you heard anything from the players post Grinch dismissal and kind of how they're reacting and how they're taking it and kind of what the process is for them?
Yeah, we spoke to them a bit yesterday, but it was kind of they weren't. Obviously, I think they were bummed about the defensive coordinator getting fired, but I think they were trying to move on and kind of go forward. I think they had been, in the previous weeks, they had been kind of looking at themselves too. Like you said, there were some impassioned guys who were saying they need to make tackles and they're in the proper positions. They just need to make plays. But even the past couple of weeks, I think there's a 4th and 6 against Washington, and they left Rome Odunze wide open on a critical 4th and 6, and he caught a 20-yard pass. So there's guys that weren't making positions that weren't making plays when they were in position to, and then there were just times where nobody was in position to make a play. And so I think it's defending Alex Grinch, and sometimes they did, but obviously like the Washington game was kind of indefensible. So I'm curious to see how they kind of bounce back and move forward from it.
Antonio Morales is our guest. He covers USC for The Athletic. This is one of those matchups. There's very few of them on the schedule where we could say, hey, we'll be able to see him again next year when they go to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But on the offensive side of the football, look, the defense has been atrocious. The offense is just humming right along. And I think kind of lost in everything with the defense melting down the way that it has is that this offense is just as good as it's ever been before. They're averaging 44.7 points per game in conference play alone. On that flip side of the ball, what does USC bring to the table that Oregon hasn't seen? Because they saw a great receiving core with Washington, but there is speed on top of speed in kind of that old school vein of USC football offensively.
Yeah, I think this will be probably the most balanced offense they've faced this season. I know a lot of USC fans will question Lincoln Riley's kind of commitment to running the ball, but they ran the ball well against Washington on Saturday night. We'll see if Marshawn Lloyd is ready to play. He missed the game against Washington on Saturday, but like I said, they ran the ball well. Austin Jones is an experienced back, and if he has to start, I think USC would still be fine in the run game. So I think there's so many different elements of USC's offense that are, like, obviously Tyler Shaw, when they played him at Texas Tech, he ran the ball well. Caleb can run the ball well too, but he can throw the ball well. And then USC has a good set of receivers and they have a good running game. So I think there's just so many different angles USC can attack a defense from. I'm kind of curious to see how the offensive line will hold up this week. They had their struggles with Braylon Trice of Washington this past week, and I think this will be one of the best fronts. This Oregon front or Utah will probably be the best front USC's faced this season. And the offensive lines had their issues in some of the high-profile games USC's had this year. So I want to see if they can protect Caleb Williams and if they'll hold up well against this Oregon pass rush.
Antonio, Lincoln Riley has said that this team is kind of buckled under expectations and that they're ahead of schedule and things that seem to kind of dismiss some of the lingering issues with the program. What does the rest of this season look like for them with the playoff and the Pac-12 title out of the way and Caleb Williams likely, finishing his career at USC and heading off to the NFL? What does this, like, what I don't even know if say that if success is the right way. What are the necessary steps the program needs to take to kind of advance beyond what they've been really for the past 18 months?
That's what I'm really fascinated to see. Lincoln Riley hasn't lost more than 3 games in a season, and he's lost 3 times in the past 4 weeks. And
Wow.
he's a 16.5 point, 17.5 point, whatever it is, underdog at Oregon. So that might be the 4th loss of the season, and it's not inconceivable they could lose to UCLA. So there's a chance they could end up 7-5 after starting 6-0 with all the expectations in the world. So it's really fascinating. Obviously, this defensive coordinator search is going to go a long way in determining the trajectory of the program under Riley and how they do, because they need to recruit better too. That's something that hasn't gone as well or gone as expected from when Lincoln Riley first took over the program. They lost a lot of recruiting battles to Dan Lanning in Oregon. That's something that has to change. I think recruiting will be something that to emphasize in that coordinator search. But I just think the way Lincoln Riley's have to really look inward this offseason. It'll be interesting to see like who he listens to and who he leans on for advice, just because he hasn't really faced adversity like this in his career. It's a string of 10-2 seasons and Big 12 titles and playoff appearances and Pac-12 title game appearances. He's not used to his team kind of being irrelevant by November. He's used to playing deep into the season and having meaningful bowl games in January. And this season's, barring an unexpected upset at Oregon, it's not going to end that way. So I think he has to really look inward and kind of evaluate what the program is doing on and off the field. Because like I said, recruiting's not going well either. And that's kind of where the hope, if you're a fan, that's where it comes from. Like, okay, there's this elite recruiting class on the way, but right now there's none really on the way. So I think he has to evaluate just a lot of different things in terms of what the program's doing.
What are the early names of people that, whether it's inside the program and surrounding the program or the fan base is looking for as far as a defensive coordinator in that next hire?
Yeah, I think that on top of the fan base's wish list is probably Jim Leonard, the former Wisconsin defensive coordinator and Illinois analyst. So I think he's on top of the wish list. We'll see how that goes. He's been the guy who's spent his whole career in the Midwest. So I'm like, would he want to move to LA and recruit at the high level that you'll need to be at USC and to compete at the highest levels of the Big Ten? So there's that. Some fans have thrown out Jimmy Lake, but Jen Cohen's the AD at USC now, and she fired him at UW. So like, I don't know if that would work well. Yeah, I don't think it would work well either. So those are some of the names that you see. Obviously, there's others out there, but those are. I think Jim Leonard's at the top of the wish list right now for the fans, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, as of right now, there's no rain forecasted for Autzen Stadium on Saturday, and as they say, it never rains at Autzen Stadium, so we won't have to see the guy with the squirt gun squirting down the punt returners this week in
Yep.
practice. But we will see you Pac-12 After Dark. It's going to get weird in Eugene on Saturday night. Antonio Morales for The Athletic, man. Thank you so much for the time, and we'll see you on Saturday.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
There he is, Antonio Morales of The Athletic. Look, this is a tough time because what we were talking about leading up to Antonio was firing Alex Grinch is putting a Band-Aid over a bullet wound.
Yeah, I mean it's not the fix, but you're triaging. That's what you're doing.
Yeah. How much can you stop the bleeding? And this is the thing is when you think too much on defense, you get burnt. What they're saying, and this is what made and I saw in the YouTube comments, an actual duck, that's somebody's name, their handle on YouTube, asked, when has an air raid team ever had a good defense? Alex Grinch with Mike Leach at Washington State. They had a good defense, but they didn't have a bunch of 5-stars that were athletic freaks. They had a bunch of guys that were smart as hell.
Yeah.
And I think, in fact, like one of their linebackers is now is one of the coaches at Portland State, lead assistant at Portland State. So, I mean, it's like what they did was you give multiple calls and you basically run your defense as the air raid offense operates, which is you give a couple of calls.
If A, then B. If B, then C.
And this is how you react, and you always have an answer and a check, right? Right. What USC is doing and what Oklahoma was doing is they're thinking too much. And when you think, you're slow to react. When you're slow to react, you're also a poor tackler. And they don't do a lot of contact. I know Andy Staples had this on his podcast earlier in the week where he said he was talking about how, like, if you don't tackle in practice, how do you expect to be good at tackling in games?
USC has not been a good tackling team since Pete.
Yeah.
That's long and short of it.
And as contact is going down in practices, and that's a regulated rules of how many days of contact you can have, you still have got to like pound in those fundamentals.
In those days, you need to make sure you're good.
And in the days that it's not, you have to pound in the fundamentals of tackling. And maybe there's just a little bit of eye off the prize in that regard because they're atrocious at tackling.
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty bad.
I'm not kidding. Mason Cobb is the only guy on that defense who I trust when he gets there to secure a tackle.
But that roster, they don't have the depth.
No.
They are so talented. If anybody thinks that this is going to be just an easy walk through USC, you're wrong.
If they get half a brain cell, they'll make it a game.
Yeah. All right. 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Forward text line. Danny Dusty on the Fan. we could see, I won't say a resolution, but some sort of, I guess, pathway towards this thing coming to an end for at least this season. As now we're looking at Wednesday, reportedly, the Big Ten set Wednesday as a deadline for Michigan to respond to the accusations that are against them by the Big Ten. And now, Michigan is all in on the defense and throwing out all the information that they can, including that Purdue, Rutgers, and Ohio State were in on a scheme to share Michigan signs with Purdue before the Big Ten championship game, which, again, I'll say that's more commonplace. And they're saying that, does that violate the sportsmanship rules of the Big Ten? I think that's a gray area. Michigan was more black and white, that somebody was going on behalf of the school to film signals, and it's a lot more coordinated, because sharing of information between schools on an opponent, that is more of like, who are your friends in coaching and who are not. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that that's going to have much weight, even though I don't think like the answer for this Michigan thing is to a bowl ban or a college football playoff ban.
No, and
that's not it. You suspend Harbaugh again,
which is what they're talking about doing. And what's going to end up happening is at most he's going to get a couple game suspension and they'll write it off, because Michigan is currently driving through with a contract extension for Harbaugh.
Yeah. Yep.
Like we know what this is now.
Yeah.
So Michigan, which is, I believe, still the most alumni in the country. I believe they still produce the most.
I thought that was Ohio State.
Is it Ohio State?
I think
it goes back and forth between the.
Yeah.
Regardless, what I'm saying is, like, this is a school that produces a bajillion graduates every single year and has more lawyers than God. If they thought that there was any inkling of them coming up on the wrong side of this, they're not plowing through and giving Jim Harbaugh a deal.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I just think that there's also this tribalism that we just get backed into a corner and we're going to go with our guy no matter what. Like in these instances.
Yeah, there
is
always that possibility.
And look, from like what's lost in all of this is that it'd be one thing if this was the only issue that Michigan has going on and surrounding them. But the NCAA is looking at it as Jim Harbaugh just served a 3-game suspension that we wanted to give him more games for. Mm-hmm. And I know it's just the cheeseburger thing, but you start adding these things up and you're like, okay.
Well, this is also the Big Ten versus the NCAA, so you've got to.
But I think the Big Ten is the conference getting into this. I think that's more significant than the NCAA, because the conference is the one that's supposed to have the schools back, because it's a member institution. It's not just a member institution. It's one of the biggest ones in their conference. It's the standard bearer. And I mean, we have not seen this.
Well, that's what makes me think they're not going to go that way. They're not going to go down that road that hard, because it is Michigan. Because it's not an apples to apples comparison, but let's use USC in the Pac-12 when the Pac-12 was still viable, and USC said, come give us more money. And everybody else said no. They said, fine, screw you. And I think when you look at those power struggles within conferences, I don't think Michigan's going to go anywhere.
My hope is that it's the last domino in conference realignment. They go to the SEC where espionage is accepted.
That would be funny. I mean, if we're being honest. And I mean, the Big Ten that would be, you want to talk about a rivalry game between Ohio State and Michigan then? Holy crap.
Honestly, if you want two super conferences, that's the best way to get there.
Having a civil war breakup between the Big Ten and SEC?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I could be talked into that.
Yeah.
But my point is, I just don't think that the Big Ten is going to martyr, that kind of school. Vandy,
they're not going to,
or Purdue can get martyred.
They're not going to punish. They're not going to punish the university. They're going to punish Jim Harbaugh, and I think that
but he's one of their own though.
Everything around this though, Ward Manuel, the AD, isn't a big fan of Jim Harbaugh. Like that's like people don't like Jim Harbaugh. That's the thing, and that's why. Michigan will survive and Michigan will be there forever. Jim Harbaugh won't. And I think that's why we see them go after Harbaugh. And we'll see it either today or tomorrow, the resolution to all that. Also, I saw somebody tweet something out that Connor Stallions, not only was he running that vacuum business,
Mhm.
did you see the little quip about he also was Airbnb-ing his home and living in that truck that's parked out front of his house in the picture?
I mean, that would make sense because that truck looked like somebody had been living in it.
I'm sure the
We-
HOA loved that too.
I mean, we have a truck that is outside of our building
What are
that
we
somebody is
doing?
100% living in, and
What are
the
we
only
doing?
thing different between the truck out here and the one that was in that picture is the color.
Yeah, yep. All right, let's get to other sports. We got to move on, and we will move on. Coming up, top of the next hour, we will have college football rankings, what it all means. The top 1-loss and top 2-loss teams reside right here in the great state of Oregon. That coming up at 2 at 1:30. We got Ryan Horvath, our BetQL Network insider from BetMGM tonight. But where we start, hour number 2, the evolution of Shaden Sharp. Danny and Dusty on the Fan. latest special offers for our listeners, go to servicepatriots.com/thefan. All right. The Portland Trailblazers were off last night. They're back at it tonight, 7 o'clock down in Sacramento, where they're looking to light the beam. By the way, Blazers, better record than the Kings this year, huh?
Yeah, they are jacking up a metric crap ton of threes, and they're not going in. Also, De'Aaron Fox.
Wait, which team?
Games. Oh, and the Blazers aren't jacking them up. That's the thing.
They're not making the ones they are shooting either.
No. For those wondering, the Blazers they do have the worst offense in the NBA. And there's no like qualifiers around that. It's bad. It's really bad.
So cool.
But the Kings are significantly, I think, at least on paper, without Fox, not as much. But they're a more functional team than the teams they've played outside of the Clippers and 76ers who beat the Blazers like drums. The Grizzlies are missing like 7 guys.
Oh.
The Raptors don't make any sense, and the Pistons are essentially playing in a phone booth because they have worse shooting than the Trailblazers.
Yeah. Well, if you're wondering, the Blazers are dead last in the NBA in points per game. They are dead last in the NBA in three-point percentage. They are not dead last in the NBA in field goal percentage. They're only 29th.
They have the 30th rated offense.
I will say that again. They're 29th out of 30 teams. The Knicks are the worst shooting team. Field goal percentage.
They have the 30th rated offense, according to Cleaning the Glass, but they do
really
have
bad.
the 12th best defense.
All right.
So they do have that going for them.
They are dead last in assists per game as well.
Yeah, no, and I bet you they're super high on assist to turnover rate, as in like the wrong way.
Yeah. Hey, we're good at offensive rebounding though.
They are.
4th.
They're very good at it. They are second to last in rim finishing, which is not great. So for those wondering, the Lakers and the Wizards are 1-2. The Wizards being number 1 at 73% finishing at the rim, which is really good. The Blazers are at 58%.
All right.
So, yeah. Also, the overall 3-point shooting, the Blazers as a team are shooting 30.1% from 3.
Okay.
As a team.
All right.
That is dead last in the league. Number 1 in the league, the Oklahoma City Thunder at 41%. For those doing math at home, that is 11%. It is a staggering increase.
Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, so 11 categories that are kept for differentials in the NBA, right? Point differential, you got your field goal percentage differential, 3-point percentage differential, basically what you're doing as opposed to how your opponents are performing. The Blazers are negative in all but 1.
Yeah.
Free throw percentage. So the refs are trying to help them out.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Is they had 2 games where they outshot their opponent by plus 20 at the free throw line.
Yeah.
That's how you pick up wins that you probably shouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Yet they're 1 game under 500.
I mean, you take the other ones away, and they're 1 win.
All right. Well, okay, from there, let's talk about some of these fixes, because, boy, it sure is loud on social media. The Shaedon Sharpe needs to cook more, and we're looking at the evolution of a player, and, boy, it is apparent. And I understand where this is all coming from, because when just from the eye test, his comfortability, his athleticism, the way that he operates on the floor and moves on the floor, it's night and day from last year to this year to where Shaedon Sharpe is. But that is calling for, it's getting louder and louder, the cries of, hey, this offense needs to operate through Shaedon Sharpe more. You need to get Shaedon Sharpe running the pick and roll more. There's so many people who are just Shaedon. And you actually, coincidentally, you and I were talking about this, and then you did the deep dive on it.
Yeah, I spent 3 days combing through every single Shaedon Sharpe, DeAndre Ayton pick and roll.
Okay.
And then I brought last games into that data set as well.
Before we dive into all of this, I just want to say one thing before you go into what you found, because what you found is fascinating. I think what a lot of fans, and I get lost in this too, with Shaedon Sharpe, is we forget that last year was his first year of basketball since high school.
Yes. He went straight from the EYBL, the Elite Youth Basketball League, that is Nike,
Yeah.
to the NBA.
Yeah, because Kentucky, no. Did not play at Kentucky. So with that said, he's really, really stinking raw still.
Mhm.
Go.
So
Please.
Shaden is averaging 20.6 boards, 3 assists,
Do your
which
thing.
is incredible. He's shooting, 46-38 from the field. All of those markers are incredible, and he's 20 years old and he's still 4 months younger than the Thompson twins.
Oh, wow.
So, like, to kind of put in perspective just how young he is.
I think
He's-
he'll always be 4 months younger than the Thompson twins.
No, that's not how age works.
No,
No.
Okay.
He'll catch up to him eventually.
eventually, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's time speed.
He's got that dog in him. So
Right, yeah,
he's
he'll
going
get there.
to age a little bit faster because he's got that dog in him,
Yeah.
Russ. Come on now.
Dog years. That's how it works. My point being, he's younger than even some of the youngest. He's 6 months younger than Brandon Miller. Okay, so
All right.
he's still incredibly young and incredibly raw. But as raw as he has flashed things that people have mistaken for not just progress, but the bar of like where he's at. Where in reality, it's a wide area that he operates in with the success meter, like the bottoming out versus topping out, right?
Mhm.
And so, without going into every bit of this, a little slice. DeAndre Ayton and Shaden Sharp have run 56 pick and rolls together through 7 games. Okay, they ran 2 against the Clippers. 2. Why is the number so small there? Why? Because the entire offense was going to be predicated on Anthony Simons and DeAndre Ayton running those actions and everybody else falling in line, which was going to be beneficial for Shaden Sharp because, as you'll see, he works better right now as a secondary guy.
That is 8 per game, and you just mentioned one where we didn't get a whole heck of a lot of them, but the Memphis game, we got
He's been
a ton of them.
ratcheted up a ton. He got 7 against Orlando.
The
next
first
game.
Memphis game, he got a lot.
Both
Both
he
of them.
did, yeah. So what ended up happening? It's 2 against the Clippers, 7 against the Magic. I want to say it's basically 10 the rest of the way. But you kind of take a look at those actions, and what I ended up doing is I charted every single one of them. And if you guys want, you can go to patreon.com/Jack Ramsey's. This is not part of the free one. This is because this is about 25 hours worth of work. So, sorry, somebody's got to pay for it.
That's right.
But I charted every single one of Shaden Sharp's passes out of these actions. And what you see is the staggering majority of the passes that are created out of it are horizontal in nature, meaning not penetrating, not passes that lead to chances.
Yeah.
That is the look of somebody who is figuring things out. So basically, we were talking about decision trees with the USC defense. It's the same thing here that Shaden Sharp is going through in pick and rolls. He is building a relationship with DeAndre Ayton to where not only are they getting their timing down, their spacing, and their rhythm, but it's the decision tree. DeAndre Ayton comes up, sets the pick. Shaden Sharp turns. It's a good pick. It creates space. Now what? Do I take the 3? Did the defense go under? Am I going to attack the defense? Is it a guy who I know is going to recover? Is it somebody who's going to get over the top and lock and trail? Those are all the things. Like, there's 15 different things you have to think about.
I also think that it's interesting in all of this conversation around Shaden Sharp is that he's going through this in this learning curve, in this learning process where it's been 12 years since Portland has gone through. It's been longer than that because before that you had Andre Miller. So it's been a really long time. But Damian Lillard came into the NBA
Ready.
having gone through all of that as a guy who in college, that's what he did. And
He's
that's
quite
how
literally-
he operated. And then CJ, he kind of was able to grow behind the scenes and then come in, but he was seasoned at Lehigh and a 4-year college guy.
4-year college guy who was one of the highest scoring pick and roll players in the nation.
Anthony Simons, he got to sit for an entire year where it was like nothing. You're not doing anything. You just learn, and then started slowly but surely behind those other 2 guys going through these lumps in this learning curve. Shaden Sharp last year was kind of thrown into the fire, but not in this role, not with the ball in his hand.
Off ball almost entirely. They gave him the ball a little bit at the very end of the season.
Now you're seeing all of the lumps that everybody else had gone through before they got to Portland or behind the scenes in Portland. You're seeing it with a guy who's thrown into the fire now, and it's not pretty at the beginning.
No, and so you're seeing these opportunities and these chances that are popping up for him where you can see these flashes. If he turns the corner and gets space, he's the best pull-up shooter on the team right now with Anthony Simons sideline. And honestly, when they're both healthy, Shea could push Ant for that title. But that's what makes Ant special is that his ability. If you were a guard in the NBA and you can pull up from any level at an elite clip, which Ant has shown he can, that is what makes you a threat in the NBA. That is why teams put when Ant's on the floor, they push out to 30 feet. Shaedon doesn't have that reputation yet. Does he have the potential to get there? Yeah, he is definitely showing that. But you're seeing these decision trees that are very binary. If A, then B. Very rarely are we getting to if B, then C. And if we get to C, it turns into a jump pass almost every single time.
Uh-oh.
So you're seeing like everybody's like, well, you just need to give him more reps. You give him more reps. No, he needs more reps where he feels comfortable. Because here's the thing: is you saw in the final 5 minutes against Memphis when they were outscored 26-2, they gave
so frustrating.
they gave Shaedon Sharpe 6 possessions in the
Yeah.
final 4 minutes to run the offense. He deferred on all but one. And on the one, he got the switch with Bismack Biyombo and finally attacked it because he got the switch 3 total times. He attacked, drew help, got into that jump pass. Luke Kennard sinks down, intercepts the pass. It goes the other way. So that was the one time where you saw that like next level decision making,
Yeah.
but it's still not quite there. So you're like when you're watching this stuff, when you go back through and you watch it over and over again, the things that start to pop out is like, okay, I understand the process. I see the growth levels. What are the things that need to happen to take it to the next level? The big part is the handle. The handle needs to. We saw the same thing with Anthony Simons. The handle, the ability to control the ball needs to grow.
Boy, I think what I actually appreciate and enjoy from Shaedon Sharpe and what we're seeing right now is what Chauncey Billups is asking him to do in the growth that we've seen in a short time isn't necessarily what the Blazers drafted him to be.
Sure.
Which was off the ball, freak athlete that is a playmaker. But we're seeing the growth of, hey, you have all of these tools to be a creator. We have to start nurturing that and growing that out of him.
And
it's going to be a
they're
process.
giving him enough leash to hang himself, so
Yeah.
to speak. But every time he goes a little too far, they just pull it back just a little bit. And then when he shows he's ready again, they let it out a little bit more. And I think that's kind of I think it's the right approach. And I think it's the same approach that they need to take with Scoot Henderson when he comes back.
Interesting. Fascinating stuff there. Go check out Danny. You got it up on the Patreon. It is this is just like surface level of all of the in-depth stuff that you can go into on your Patreon, the Jack Ramsey's Patreon that you got going right now. You got film, you charted it all out.
Yeah. So I literally watched every single DeAndre Ayton, Shaedon Sharpe pick and roll over and over and over.
Are you going to do this all season long?
Yes, I will. It's something I will come back to over and over again, just to kind of see where the growth spots, the development spots happen. I'll probably do it in probably like 7 game segments, just so it's keeps growing.
Folks, I hope you understand. Danny has no life, so you can learn more about the Blazers.
Indeed,
It's a sickness.
it is a sickness.
Yeah.
I joke about it, but I'm pretty certain it's true. I probably watch more Blazers film than anybody not on that team.
I bet there's a few on that team that you do watch more film than.
Yeah, there's probably at least one Baker, Johnny Manziel in there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I thought you were going to just name that person, but when you stopped, but you were saying Baker
I
Mayfield.
said Baker. I got my
Yeah.
Cleveland quarterbacks mixed
Yeah,
up.
yeah. There's got to be a Johnny in there.
There's got to be a Johnny. There's always a Johnny in there somewhere.
Well, heck, didn't somebody just say it the other day when they said like I just go out and just kind of play? Wasn't Shane Sharp who said he just kind of goes out and plays?
He did
At
say
the
that in
beginning.
the post game. Yeah.
So maybe you watch more Shaden Sharp than Shaden Sharp.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put that on him.
I think he's working, but maybe he is. That'd be a terrifying thing if he's just all vibes.
He's like, hey, yeah, see ball, get ball, go
Mm.
play ball. All right, we're Ryan Horvat, Bet MGM Tonight host. He joins us at 1:30. But coming up next, maybe they should change their tune. Danny Dusty on the Fan. But did you see what LeBron had said about your favorite player in the NBA?
Oh, about Dylan Brooks.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I've seen a couple different versions.
Yeah.
So what's the actual quote?
Okay. So we got a big new contract, 4-year, $80 million deal for the Oregon product, Dylan Brooks. And a lot of people are like, God, that seems like an overpay. Which, hey, go get your money, man. But LeBron James and Dylan Brooks, they've gone back and forth. Like, he's obviously, Dylan Brooks has been a heel, and this is no different. But he's kind of been the guy, the agitator to LeBron. LeBron said, I think every player that's awarded a contract is awarded for a reason, and they're worthy of the contract that they get. So I think in this case, he's worthy of the contract that he got. He's put in the work since he came out of Oregon, and that's what Houston found value in. So he's here. So no, I think it has nothing to do with it when asking if being a LeBron stopper and posing himself as fancying himself a LeBron stopper made him more money on the open market, which he's not.
Yeah,
This is like Ruben Boomshay being the
No,
Kobe spot, or no,
Ruben Patterson.
Ruben Patterson.
Get your Rubens mixed up.
Yeah,
How
I got
dare
it.
you sully the name
Sorry.
of Boomjay?
I know. Sorry, Ruben Patterson.
Yeah. Kobe stopper.
Not a good dude.
Terrible human.
But he said, I'm the Kobe stopper, and Kobe said, you're not.
You're not.
And so LeBron, Dylan Brooks, not really a LeBron stopper.
No,
either.
in that series, I want to say Dylan Brooks averaged 10, 3, and 1 and shot 30% from the field, while LeBron went 28, 7, and 6, shooting like 49, 34.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Stopped him.
yeah.
Stopped him.
Yeah. No, unceremoniously getting the crap kicked out of you over and over and over again, and then acting like the whole world is against you and you did nothing wrong. Definitely didn't get him paid. What got him paid is a stupid owner.
Oh, speaking of stupid owners, that when you said that, there's something that's been registering my brain from Rust's updates. The Patriots have left J.C. Jackson at home when they went to Germany. Dean Spanos giving J.C. Jackson that massive deal and then trading him for peanuts back to New England. And New England has left him in the United States because last week before the Commanders game, he was late for curfew at the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So they benched his ass. And so he's not a starter anymore. So they just left him. They left him in New England.
Bro, they left you in New England in the winter when you could have been in Germany.
Yeah, on their way to Frankfurt, they're like, nah, that's going to be a no for me, dog. But, I mean, this is what they did. Malcolm Butler. Remember, everybody's like, what happened to Malcolm Butler with the Patriots?
That's right.
He was late. It was a curfew thing, and he wasn't, like, they say, it doesn't matter who you are. You got to be back for curfew. We're going to just leave you. And that's how you fall out of good graces.
They do door-to-door room checks, you think?
I would assume so. You do the knock,
Yeah.
the peek in, you say, hey, what's up? But then also, if you're late after that knock, there's security guards on every floor.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they just sit out and they watch so no funny business happens, but they know when you're late or you don't show up.
Mm-hmm.
That's for damn sure. So they get you.
Mm-mm-mm.
They get you. But that's another dumb owner overpaying for somebody.
Do you
Dean
think,
Spanos,
do you think
everybody.
if he wouldn't have paid J.C. Jackson, he could have fired Staley?
No, he wouldn't have done that. No, that's silly talk. What are you doing? Come on, you think you're telling me Dean Spanos would have done something that would have done something that is actually good for his organization? Well, he did pay Justin Herbert, which I do think is a good thing. You know what? I'm going to take that back because they've paid a lot of players a lot of money, in rightfully so, because they're trying to win. But the idea that that Brandon Staley is going to be the guy moving forward, like I never am a fire that guy. Brandon Staley is not the answer to be the head coach, and they will not let him go in the middle of the year. And that, I don't think it's going to be to the detriment of Justin Herbert for in the short term. But if they keep him beyond this year, that's brutal.
I mean, I don't see a world where you can do that.
Like, if they fire Brandon Staley, are they somehow a Super Bowl contender this year?
No,
No.
but you might get yourself on the right path, and you could get a free look at Kellen Moore as far as if you wanted him to be your head coach.
I don't think you want that.
Do you want to at least take a look under the hood?
No.
No? Okay.
No. Well, I mean, you brought him in because he and Brandon Staley are boys, right? Like they're thick as thieves. They're really tight and they're friends. So I don't know if you. I
Not all
wouldn't-
friends are stupid.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, you'd think that he'd be like, "Hey, bud, look, like this is a perfect example.
Lincoln and Grinch.
All of the times that you admit crimes on this show, what do I tell you? Stop. You need to stop admitting these crimes on the show. At least I'm looking out for your best interests.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
You may blow right through it and keep on to admitting the crimes that you've committed on this show.
I think if you
but
get
I'm
the-
telling you to stop, man.
But if you get the interim tag, like Antonio Pierce right now is playing with house money.
yeah.
If you screw it up, does it automatically disqualify you from being a head coach? No.
No.
In fact, I think you get some free reps, and people look at you and go, "Oh, you're interim. You're dealing with an S show." Like, but you get to get like the real reps of being a head coach.
Yeah. I just I'm not sure if I think they're too similar to each other.
That's
I
fair.
think they need a full-on reset. Like they need a different direction, different voice.
Excise it all.
Yep. They need that staff out, bring a new staff in, hit the reset from a coaching standpoint because that team is too damn talented to be playing the way that they do. That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
I like it.
All right.
That's all I got for you.
Oh.
Oh, you want me to do the next tease?
Yep.
I guess it is that time. Coming up next, we do have Ryan Horvat, BetMGM, that and more. But first, here's a Big Kahuna with Sports Center update.
I hear they got some tasty burgers.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by 808 Hawaiian Restaurant. Enjoy some Kalua Pig Terry Chicken and an island cocktail at Burnside, Woodstock, or order online at ate-oh-ate.com. First on The Fan, the top 8 of the second college football playoff rankings remains the same as the first. Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, and Florida State are your current 4-team playoff. Washington and Oregon remain on the outside looking in at 5 and 6. Elsewhere in the Pac-12, Oregon State leaps 4 spots to number 12. Utah stays at 18. Arizona enters at number 21, while both UCLA and USC fall out of the rankings. The Trailblazers back at it tonight. They start a 3-game road trip at the Kings. No Scoot Henderson, no Robert Williams, no Anthony Simon. 7 o'clock tip on Root Sports. The Blazers are 8.5-point underdogs. Ian Rappaport of NFL Network reports the practice window for Vikings receiver Justin Jefferson is being opened this week. The team will have 21 days to activate him after he was put on injured reserve with a hamstring injury. NFL Network reporting Patriots cornerback J.C. Jackson not traveling with the team to Frankfurt, Germany for their game Sunday against the Colts. Jackson was demoted out of the starting lineup in Sunday's loss to the Commanders. And the Giants will start undrafted free agent Tommy DeVito at quarterback Sunday against the Cowboys with Matt Barkley serving as the backup. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Russ at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Watch and wager on pro and college football from across the country at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
The home of prime time with Isaac and Sue. Weekdays 3 to 7, 1080 The Fan.
the bet in on this show. He said, hey, I have very little faith in my Packers, but he had faith in the Packers last week. It was the easiest bet I had all weekend, man. So thank you, Horvat. You came on, and I listened to your advice, and we both were dancing to the bank. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Now we turn around and we bet against them this week. Check this out.
Done.
You want to hear something crazy? I couldn't believe this as a Packer fan. I like to think that I know most things about my team. The Packers haven't beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh. The last time they have, actually, their starting quarterback was Bart Starr. Never did it with Brett Favre. Never did it with Aaron Rodgers. Now, obviously, they don't play a whole bunch, but Mike Tomlin's going to have his guys ready to go. And Green Bay, the only reason we liked them last week was because they were going against Brett Rippon in the Los Angeles Rams, who I like when Stafford's out there, but I don't like as much with Brett Rippon, who I think was the worst starting quarterback to go last week. So, yeah, that was a nice one. That was a rare, easy one where you didn't even have to watch the whole game or any of the game, which would probably be best for your eyeballs.
That is an incredible stat with how good the Pack has been, over the years. That's up there with like the Steelers stat of, they've had 3 coaches since 1969, and the Raiders have had 4 in the past calendar year. It's incredible to think of. So we're riding with the Pack or the Steelers against the Packers, and we'll take that one. But you're a college football guy though too, and I want to get your thoughts on the college football playoff and kind of what the betting trends are looking like on the futures of the playoff market, and how much that means to maybe some of the week to week that you look to, and is there value that can be had between what the rankings say of the playoff committee and maybe what Vegas thinks on the flip side of it in some of the lines in the head-to-head matchups?
Yeah, I mean, that's why last week, I think actually the best bet, so the Packers, that one was nice and easy.
Yes,
but I like what we did last week when I said, I liked Alabama against LSU. I don't like LSU's defense whatsoever, but Jalen Daniels has been awesome. If LSU was going to win that game, he was going to be your Heisman, and he was still plus 425. If you liked Alabama in that game, I thought it was worth taking a shot with them to win the national championship at 14-1, because I know this isn't a great Alabama team, but it's a good Alabama team. And, we've had a couple people on to cover the team, a couple of their beat reporters, and they're saying the same thing. Like, this might end up being Nick Saban's best coaching job. They've been good all season long defensively. They have a solid pass rush. I really like Coolidge, McKinstry in their secondary. He's going to be a top 10 pick most likely. And then on the offensive side of the ball, they finally got the run game going a little bit. The offensive line has been a little bit better. Milroe's been a little bit better. They ran the ball just all over the place in that last game. He didn't even really have to hit the deep throw that I thought he was going to have to. So Bama will be 14-1, all the way down to 7-1. I know right now they're outside the top 4, but if they're on the table, if they get into the SEC championship game, I like them on a neutral field against Georgia. And you have the perfect hedging opportunity where if you like Georgia, you could just bet it, get your money back, and you'd still have the 14-1, even right now the 7-1 ticket. So I feel like that's the best value bet. I also really like the Ducks, man. Trista Crick, obviously my co-host, she won't get down with me on this one. I think she's just a little bit jaded by her team, doesn't trust them in big spots. I know they lost the head-to-head matchup against Washington. I promise you that if they see each other again, which I think Washington maybe gets clipped here the next couple of weeks, probably not this week against Utah, as beat up as they are. But, man, I want to see that rematch. And if we get it on a neutral, I'll be betting a lot of money on Oregon. They're so tough in the trenches. I think they're the best offensive line in the country. They could get after the quarterback. The secondary is a little shaky at times, but it's the Pac-12. Other than Arizona State, everybody's secondary is a little shaky. And Bo Nix right now should be a Heisman favorite. Bucky Irving's averaging 8 yards per carry. I mean, they're almost a perfect football team except for the stupid loss against Washington. So I like them 10-1. And obviously, I like Bama still 7-1, just because I could see Georgia getting clipped. Michigan, right now we could call them the best team in the country, but what's their best win? And I worry a little bit about a distraction with everything that's going on. This is going to be a tough game this weekend, because Drew Aller's been much better at home than he's been on the road, and Penn State's defense has been really good against the run. Michigan, even with those 2 really good backs, Corum and Edwards, hasn't really got the run game going. This is going to be a big J.J. McCarthy game, so he's going to have to win this game with his arm. I just don't think there's a perfect team, so I'm looking at teams with really good prices, and that's why I like Oregon and Alabama. Sorry for the long answer. I do really like those two teams.
Love it.
Horvat, when you look around the NFL right now, we're reached that halfway point, and we just kind of know who teams are at this point in time. As the books start to shape in a little bit, and injuries are either clearing up or guys are being put up on the shelf, where can you actually find value in the NFL in the second half of the season?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's been kind of like a tough NFL season for betting. Like, actually, it's been a really good betting season for the public, which is good to see. You know, it's like time. It's finally time that, you know, they get some back against these books that are out in Las Vegas. They're building castles, and you see these hotels, man. So it's good to see the public win some money because the favorites, once again, last week, it was a good week with the favorites. The Bengals ended up closing it out, you know, and then on Monday night, the Chargers were favored in that game. I don't even think the Jets knew that they played a Monday night football game. That was boring as hell. They got blown out. So right now you have to look at some of these injuries, and I like some weird dogs. They're not even like weird dogs, but I'm looking at teams right now like the Houston Texans because, they're not the most talented team, but I really like C.J. Stroud, and they have a lot of vets on that team, even though they're a young team. And right now they're healthy. You brought up injuries. You know, I'm looking at the healthy teams. Those are the teams that I want to back right now. So you have the Texans who don't have a bunch of injuries, and they're still getting priced like they're a 4 or 5 win team. They're 7-point dogs this weekend. So I really like them. I like the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe they even win a game, especially if Kyler goes out there and plays. Kyler's going to look the ball out. I know everybody doesn't love Kyler Murray, but we got to remember, like, the last time he was fully healthy and they had a team around him, they started, 7-0, 8-0, and then they ran into Green Bay on Thursday night. He got hurt, and then he wasn't the same, and they lost in the playoffs. But I think he's going to put together a nice season because he wants to end up in a better situation if he's not in Arizona. So I kind of like them this weekend. But that's what I'm looking to do right now is, you know, back the healthier teams, or I'm trying to find prices with the best backup quarterbacks because we're seeing a lot of backup quarterbacks, and some of these guys can play and some can't. You know, P.J. Walker, God bless him, thank God he has a top 10 defense with the Cleveland Browns because he might be the worst starting quarterback I've ever seen, guys. He is so bad. He's a tough watch. But that's what I'm trying to do right now is find the healthiest teams and the best backup quarterbacks. I actually like the kid. I like Bajan a little bit for the Bears until they ask him to throw the ball down the field. Then he's a mess. I still think, you could fade him tomorrow, or even if it's Justin Fields. I like the Carolina Panthers. You know, so it's ugly dogs and healthy teams for me right now.
I saw a terrible offensive line and a awful quarterback get absolutely run out of Vegas by the Raiders in the New York Giants. Tommy DeVito and the Giants. I don't know if I've seen a line quite this big at this point in the season. They're 16-point dogs heading to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. It's the weird. That is a massive number. Can you put into perspective, like, how big of a number 16 is for Dallas to be favored over the Giants? Because you look at 10 points is a big win in the NFL's standards. They are 16-point dogs in Vegas's eyes, and we're at week 10.
Yeah, man. I mean, 3.5 is a lot of points in the NFL historically. You know, 7.5. You're looking to play the key numbers. If it's an ugly dog, like you said, usually you're looking for a 10.5, a 13.5, 14.5. Now we're just blowing past key numbers. We're past 2 touchdowns. You know, you see a lot more 2-point conversions, so the 16 makes more sense now. We could get out to 17 here. And then, like, historically, that's insane because this is a divisional matchup. These are two teams that see each other twice every year, and usually that play each other pretty tough. Every year, somebody else wins that division, and yet you're seeing a team 2 touchdown, maybe 3 touchdown favorites by closing time, and that just shows you where the Giants are at right now. Last year they won double-digit games, and Brian Daboll was coach of the year. He did a really good job, but that team wasn't very talented. And now, as beat up as they are, without Daniel Jones, they're even less talented. But still, man, all those points in a divisional game, I can only play the dog. And I guess what would worry me, you have the Cowboys coming off a loss where they played pretty good football. That is a really good defense going against DeVito, who's a turnover machine, and it's the number 1 pass rush team in the league. But still, that's a lot of points. And if Brian Daboll really deserved to be coach of the year, right, shouldn't he at least be able to keep his team within 17 points, 16 points in a football game? I mean, I didn't think he deserved that award last year, guys. I really didn't. And I like Brian Daboll a lot. I think he did a tremendous job, but I just didn't think that how was Nick Sirianni not coach of the year last year? The Eagles went to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And I get it's a regular season thing, but they won 13 games. And people the year before were talking about Jalen Hurts can't throw to the left side of the field and he's not an NFL starting quarterback. So anytime a New York team's relevant, they're winning awards, right? Like Tom Thibodeau was coach of the year. Monty Williams took the Suns to the finals. They went from being a play-in team to winning 60-plus games, right?
Mm-hmm. Horvat, I'll get you out of here on this. It's another New York team. What the hell do you do with the Buffalo Bills?
Oh, guys, a couple weeks ago I bet them to win the Super Bowl. I may have jinxed them. I may be the hex there. They're terrible. They're not terrible, but they're not. I mean, like when you compare them to the Bengals, to the Chiefs right now. I mean, the problem for them is the defense right now. All the injuries on the defense. They lose Trey White, their best cover corner, again. Von Miller, he's played almost 100 snaps right now. He doesn't have a sack. He has 3 quarterback pressures. He looks like a shell of himself. I think he may have came back too early, or he's just washed. Hate to say it. You lose Matt Milano, who was having an all-pro type season. And then your 2 safeties, I like Poyer and I like Micah Hyde, but they're in their 30s and they're dealing with injuries already. Mm-hmm. They're getting no pass rush. And if you're going to beat the Chiefs or the Bengals in the playoffs, you have to have a pass rush. Because if you let Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes sit in the pocket, I don't care who the receivers are, they're going to pick you apart. And then offensively, they're a mess. Like a couple weeks ago, they were running all this 2 tight end stuff. Then Dawson Knox gets hurt. And I actually like what they were doing, more 3 receiver sets, 4 receiver sets. But they're just so inconsistent. You know, I don't know if it's Ken Dorsey. I don't know if it's Sean McDermott. I honestly think if they don't at least make it to the AFC Championship game, I think McDermott might get fired. Ken Dorsey might be elsewhere as well, because it has to be Super Bowl or bust at some point for teams like the Bills. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because a lot of those guys you're not going to be able to pay here soon. And I don't know. They got a bunch of issues. Who's wide receiver number 2? It's one week Gabe Davis looks good. The next week he's on a milk carton. They're just too inconsistent for me to back right now.
Yeah, I'm with you, my man. And I think maybe we have Brian Daboll and Josh Allen reunited maybe in Buffalo after this year.
I didn't even think about that.
We both kind of did
That'd
the
be
pause
great.
there for a second, like, that kind of makes a lot of sense.
Bring them back together.
All right, Horvat.
See, I would love that. That's when Josh Allen was at his best.
Yep.
Josh Allen's at his best. Like, I'll take the turnovers. I think we overrate the turnovers. I think he's the modern-day version of Brett Favre, where he's at his best when he's chucking it down the field. Mm-hmm. He's at his best when he's using his legs. He's not going to slide. He's not going to go out of bounds. He's built like a linebacker. Sure, it's going to cut his career short. Like, you should watch what happened to Cam Newton. But you notice, like, that's when he's at his best. When they ask him to play within the offense, I'm not going to say he stinks, but he goes back to being like the Josh Allen I saw at college that I didn't really like, you know, because he was inconsistent. He wasn't the most accurate quarterback. He's looked like a much different guy since Brian Daboll's left. I think he's just got to let it rip. He's got to go back to being himself.
All right, Horvat, appreciate you joining us, man. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks so much, guys. Let's do it. Hey, how about the Houston Rockets tonight? Speaking of ugly dogs, why does this team keep winning? I think they cover and win outright.
You are a true sicko.
I love it.
Let's get nuts.
All right, appreciate you, brother. We'll catch you next week.
Guys.
That was the host of BetMGM Tonight and Odyssey Sports betting insider Ryan Horvat. Insider calls are presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. When we come back, we got our worst day on the web. Danny and Dusty, today the fan.
Hello, sports fans.
With Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
Well, that sucks.
One brand of thing I will never get tired of my entire life. It started as a kid and it'll never stop. Seeing people who are huge next to other people who are huge but not nearly as huge.
It really is. It's a gift that keeps on giving. That Victor Wembanyama is the epitome of that. And at Madison Square Garden, he's getting ready to play the Knicks.
Yeah, he had a great line. Did you hear it?
Yeah, he said it's not as big as I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is massive human being, and it's not.
It's an old building.
This is the part about Madison Square Garden that people they're like, oh, it's the Mecca. Well, the only reason why it's called that is because great games were played there.
Yeah, haven't in a while.
Yeah, there have not been great games played at Madison Square Garden, with the exception of that one playoff game where Trae Young bowed in a really long time.
Yeah, there have been games where guys have scored a lot against the Knicks.
But it's a historical place.
Sure.
And there's been a lot of great basketball moments that have been there.
Kobe dropped, was a 60-piece there.
Yeah. So did Jordan.
I think Dame dropped 50.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the Knicks suck.
Yeah.
What are you doing here? I mean, all of these indicators are like, Knicks aren't very good.
That's what I'm saying. People go there and drop a lot of points.
But historically, a lot
Sure.
of great moments have happened there. A lot of great boxing matches have
Most
happened
of you weren't
there.
alive when those happened.
Hockey has been played there, and it's been fantastic.
It has been played there.
It's
Thank you.
not really good anymore, though.
No.
The Rangers are okay.
Yeah.
But the Knicks are not.
No. Well,
We need to get over that.
They're better.
They're the only team that's worse in field goal percentage than the Blazers this season.
They're better.
They're the only team worse in field goal percentage than the Portland Trail Blazers this year.
But we say all this because Wemby's there, and there is a meeting between sports icons and Victor Wembanyama and Tom Brady. And Tom Brady does what everybody else has been doing with Victor Wembanyama, which is take a picture next to Wemby.
That's
And
right.
It's hilarious because Tom Brady is 6'4", and it looks like he was photoshopping, like somebody lopped off him. It looks like they gave him the cotton treatment from
King of the Hill.
King of the Hill,
Yep.
and cut him off at the shins because he is a literal full foot shorter than Wemby.
He is. He's looks much shorter, and the picture, that's what everybody gets with Wemby because he's just so tall. But here's where it's the worst day on the web, is because that ricochet shot from Tom Brady is an all-timer. He said, "Awesome to meet you, Wemby," on his Instagram post. "Incredible young man. Usually I'd make some joke here how I think I could get 10 and 10 against you, but let's be real. You'd send my jumper into the club level. P.S. Edelman, is this how you felt all those years?" Julian Edelman. He gave Julian Edelman the ricochet shot.
Which you love to see.
Well, no, you don't. Jules is sitting there, and he's like, what? I'm not even there. What is this? You're just going to take this shot at me? And so Edelman responded with just the gif of Michael Scott saying, "I'm dead inside."
I mean, what do you do at that point?
Like he just...
How tall is Edelman?
He's like 5'9". I think he's probably listed at 5'11", but he's 5'9".
Height listed as 5'10", so he's 5'9".
He's 5'9".
Yeah.
But then Brady came back over the top and he said, "Media outlets asking for permission to use this photo. Yes, you may. Here is the file. Disregard other photoshopped images of me and Victor." And he stretched himself out to be the same height as Victor Wembanyama in the Photoshop.
Which is absolutely fantastic.
It is. It's great.
It's like he pulled himself like 12 feet into the foreground.
That's right, which is what you need to do.
Yeah, you don't go into the background.
The amazing part is what Wemby does every single week is we see him in a new photo like this. Like, remember when Boban holding things was going viral every day?
You need a Wemby for scale.
Yeah. Wemby standing next to Kevin Durant
Yeah.
was insane.
Yes.
Last week it popped up and it's like, everybody has accused Kevin Durant of lying about not being 7 feet his entire career. And we all like, that is a 7-footer. We know a 7-footer when we see a 7-footer. Now I'm like, dude, why is Kevin Durant lying to everybody?
Why is he 6'9"?
He's 6'6", dude. That guy's 6'6". Look at him next to Wemby. Wemby makes Kevin Durant look small.
The one where we saw where it was like, oh my God, was in Vegas last year when they had the tournament and Gobert was there.
Yeah.
And Rudy is 7'1".
Mm-hmm.
Rudy is massive, like beyond comprehension big. and he makes Rudy look small.
Yeah.
And that's things like when the Spurs come here, your people here are gonna they're if you see him in person, you're gonna lose your mind because seeing him in person doesn't do it justice.
When
see
do the
him on
Spurs
TV.
come here?
It's not for a
Do you
little
know when
while.
that happens?
I think it's January.
It's in January.
Yeah.
We need to see if because the Blazers need a celebrity fan too. We know this to be true. No back-to-back home games, December 28th and 29th.
End of December.
Yeah, there we
okay.
go. December 28th and 29th.
Wemby Mania right after Christmas.
Yeah. We need to get Danny DeVito here for that. If they're gonna those are the games we
4'10". You could
Yeah.
You know how far away you have to step?
I don't care. We need to
You need the inverse telephoto lens.
That's where the Blazers need a celebrity fan. I don't care if he's 78. It'll be a short run, but it'll be a good run.
Wow.
With the super fan,
Double entendre. Look at
that's
you.
right. It
God,
will be
lyricist over here.
it will be a super fan that the Blazers fans can all rally behind. We need Danny DeVito, aka Frank Reynolds, to be the Blazers super fan, and we need a picture of him and Wemby on the 28th and 29th. Let's make that happen. Let's get that going.
Look,
I'm here for
I'm
it.
all for it. The greater successes of Danny's, we are here for. That's the union I'm starting. All right, coming up next, we are going to reset with some college football talk. There is a lot going on this weekend as we careen towards the college football playoff. We'll get to that and more coming up here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
this 3-week run is the run that you look for, because outside of, you got SC and Oregon, which is a good game for this conference, but if you just look down the road of what Washington, what Oregon State have, what Utah has, I mean, this is a run of games that will determine the Pac-12, because not only do you have SC Oregon, like you said, but you've got Utah and UW. I think stylistically, that game favors Washington tremendously, just the way that they play. And they may be getting more healthy and back on the right track. But next week, if you look at what's down the line next week, Oregon State, Washington's going to be a big one. You got Utah, Arizona, and then USC, UCLA, which I don't know how much weights that game's going to hold because of what has happened and what may happen this weekend between Oregon and Washington. If USC picks up another loss, a game doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of meaning, because you'll have 2 potential 3-loss teams in conference play. But then the final week of the season, how about this? You get Oregon State, Washington State. You got Utah, Colorado. Stylistically, that may match up and bode well for Colorado, even though I think that they'll get the ball run literally all over them, all over the field,
Footprints in the chest,
all over the damn field. They may have, like, that has the makings of like a 500 yards rushing game. But this is a 3-week run where, holy smokes, the conference has set itself up to be relevant in the final 3 weeks of the season. And it does. It starts this weekend. And this is going to be the one that kind of sets it all off with all of these matchups that are so meaningful. And you want your teams to be relevant, and you don't want them to cannibalize each other. And it all is going to come down to, can Oregon and Washington survive this run to keep you in the college football playoff?
And that's what I think that this weekend is the most important, because Oregon State is a better team complete than USC, but I think USC presents the biggest challenge to Oregon from now until the end of the season. Does that make sense?
Well, because Arizona State's kind of wedged in between. You got to go down to Tempe, and the weird things happen there.
Sure, but if you're talking
that would
about
be a complete and utter meltdown.
Yes, but as bad as USC's defense is, that offense can do things to you that nobody else in the country can.
I think that Oregon State is still poses the biggest
You think so?
challenge, because they're more complete. They are more complete than USC, and when you can run the football as effectively as Oregon State can, and their front seven is just better.
Oh yeah, no doubt about
better. I mean, if you want to get into a track meet with Oregon, I think they'll welcome that at this point, because you have the most experienced quarterback in the country. It's when you want to keep Bo Nix off the field, and it is and kind of what you're saying, though, to what your point is that, look, Michael Penix and the Washington offense, they end up coming out on top. Washington's defense is way better than USC's is, and they played far better that day.
Yes.
And then USC coming up at night. You know, the whole thing is you got to jump on a USC early.
Yeah.
You have to jump on USC.
Because if that's the kind of
get-go.
team that has all the confidence in the world if they're rolling, but if they don't, they don't know what to do.
And I don't think
to be fair, they're a front-running team.
Oregon is 15-point favorites in this game.
That feels big.
I would be stunned if that line is anywhere close to that for Oregon State. I don't think you're going to see a 15-point line.
Just because of the lack of possessions?
No, just because I think of the matchup.
Okay.
Like, I think that's what it is that, like, look, we talked about this at the beginning of the year. Every single thing that was a fear for USC at the beginning of the year
it's come true.
has played out.
Oh, yeah.
They are not very deep. Their defense is not very good, and they are not a sure tackling team like they were a year ago. And like every single one of those things was like, well, maybe, maybe things are different this year. The narrator voice, they are not.
They are not
through to this point though. But like something that you said at the beginning of this week, and you got it because you're a Raiders fan. You saw with Josh McDaniels, maybe there is just a spark of, hey, now we can play more loose and free. Addition by subtraction with Alex Grinch being gone.
It's again, I'm the 15-point line feels big, not because I think that USC is going to win, but because that offense is so good. It's and it's not even a shot at Oregon's defense. It's That USC offense is insane.
Okay.
Even being dysfunctional,
Yeah.
they hang points,
Mm-hmm.
and that's I don't know. We'll
Well,
see.
they're going on the road.
Yep, to a place where that has been a house of horrors for them for what 7 years.
Yeah. Do you think that Oregon can get 3 stops?
Yes, I think yes.
I do. I think they can because I mean Washington got 5
The
last
blueprint,
week,
and well, I mean,
right?
They got 5, and well,
And that was
4
at
and a fumble.
that was on the road.
Yeah.
Well, 4 and a fumble is
Yeah.
5 stops, but you get 5 stops last week. Like, can Washington, like, can USC travel on the road, and can they get 5 stops? They didn't last
Sure.
week.
Sure.
You're pretzeling yourself into this thing.
I'm just thinking, like, do I think this game is going to go more like the Utah game or more like the Washington game? And even though Oregon profiles more like Utah, I have a feeling this game's going to go more like the Washington game. My gut is telling me this is going to be a high scoring game.
Yes, I agree with that too.
I don't think this is going to be a game where Utah or USC gets Utah, where they scored 20, where they were just fundamentally broken from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is more like a 52-45 game.
I don't see it being that high.
I do. I think it goes UW USC style. I genuinely do think it goes sideways.
I think Oregon's defense is better than that.
I do too.
Especially
I think they're
home.
a significantly better defense than Washington. Something tells me this is going to be a high scoring. I could be entirely wrong.
I don't think USC hits 30.
You don't think they hit 30?
Yeah.
Really?
I think we're in the 30s. I think it'll be pretty similar to the Washington game. But if it gets sideways and the offense at USC does not feel and they're not clicking, then I think it could get out of hand.
Oh, trying to chase Oregon because they can't get a stop. Yeah, I 100% agree that. Like, Oregon's going to score. Like that's why I think it's going to be high scoring. Like it's.
Yeah.
I think both teams are going to score quite a few points.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that one plays out. But I mean, as the college football playoff rankings played out, the Pac-12 is getting at the same time an immense amount of respect and disrespected because think of this like when you think of the Oregon is the highest rated 1-loss team.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon State is the highest rated 2-loss team. After this week, you very easily could see the highest rated 3-loss team be the Arizona Wildcats. Yet they have the lowest ranked undefeated team in the country. That the Pac-12 is being looked at by the playoff committee as an incredible conference and at the same time not good enough.
That's what we talked about last week. I was like, it felt like they just weren't quite kind of getting their respect, even though they're it was one of those things where they were, they're good, but they're like, kind of passing them off behind because so they could elevate the Big Ten and the SEC.
And they're everything is about posturing.
Yes, and that's the nature of this beast, and we'll get to that and more coming up as we have some audio after the college football playoff bracket was announced.
Greg McElroy not happy.
It's a spicy meatball. Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
a 4-team playoff.
It gets bigger
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah, the
I
rankings.
swear it'll be bigger.
The pool is cold. Yeah, and look, nothing changing 1 through 8. That's not a surprise to anybody. I was impressed though when you have Oregon State moving up all 4 spots and not getting jumped by anybody. I think that is huge because now
They got all 4. It was we talked
Yeah.
about it off air. How many spots are they going to move up? And I was like, they'll probably get 2 because they get hosed.
Well, I thought they were going to prop up Oklahoma and
Yeah.
just be like, hey, we're going to give the Big 12 one of the highest ranked 2-loss teams, and they said no, we don't, because Oklahoma State, Kansas, and Oklahoma are all wedged behind the Beavs, Tennessee, and Missouri as 2-loss teams, and that's great news for Oregon State. And it's that jockeying for position that the playoff committee is always looking for. Look, all of these rankings is just justification for what the final rankings will be later on in the season. They mean nothing. They're actually, I should say, it does mean something in that if they bury you very low, you're just getting that signal that you're not going to work your way up.
Yes.
But one of the problems with the way that the playoff committee justifies things is they use all of their different criteria to put one team over another, and it's frustrating to people. And it kind of came out in Greg McElroy of ESPN, former Alabama quarterback, and he's not wrong when he says all of this. His frustration, though, is kind of misguided.
What you're telling people to an extent is, hey, you know what? Just schedule Texas Tech in the preseason. Because Texas Tech was that's who Oregon played. And Oregon went on the road and looked ugly in that game, by the way. Got a late touchdown that made it look a little better. But if you look at the strength of record, it's not comparable. Alabama and Texas are both operating right now pretty well. I wouldn't say that they're passing the eye test with flying colors, but they don't have the luxury of playing Cal. And I'm not trying to take shots at Cal. I'm not trying to take shots at Colorado and these other teams. I'm not. But I just think why is the committee, and this committee is irritating me, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't understand.
Irritated.
Yeah, I can tell he is. Frustrated.
But we're in week 2, though.
I know, but why are we using resume to define Ohio State as number 1? We're using eye test to define Georgia and Michigan as 2 and 3. We're using resume plus eye test to define Florida State at 4. And then we like Washington, but they got holes to put them
there's
at 5.
no consistency.
There's no consistency.
Okay.
I understand that. I get that. And he's not wrong in that. The committee uses so many different factors when ranking these teams. And they'll say, well, we use this one to rank this team high, this one to rank the other team. But he's like, I'm not like these teams don't have the benefit of playing Cal. Oh, really, Greg? Because I don't know. Texas has played Baylor, Houston, BYU, Wyoming, and Rice this year. So let's not act like they have a bunch of juggernaut after juggernaut and then sit there and be like, all the committee is saying is to play Texas Tech and you'll be okay. They schedule these games 10 years out. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
His alma mater, Alabama, they end the season with Kentucky, Tennessee, Chattanooga, Auburn. Okay? So, yes, instead of throwing Texas Tech in there at the beginning of the season, when stuff happens at the end of the season, not only do you play one less conference game, you throw in an even bigger cupcake. So please shut the hell up.
And this isn't to justify Oregon's schedule because, Oregon's schedule hasn't been very good.
No, it hasn't. Also, this is me talking about this. I am not Big Duck Honk.
Yeah.
The fact that we're doing this right now is just so dumb. It's just judge the teams on the merits.
Watch them.
I don't care if Michigan's spying or not. They're going out and kicking the living crap out of everyone you're putting in front of them.
And that is where you go, all right, let this whole thing play out and there will not be an issue. The issue that Greg McElroy has, and Greg he said it several times.
The point he made at the end is very, very, very on point.
Yes, but you know what? It doesn't matter. And because the committee, they know everything that he's saying too. They're not dumb people that are in that room, but they're trying to parse through to get the 4 best teams on the field at the end of the day.
Yes.
Okay. And 4 best and most deserving Like that is the hard thing to parse through.
It is not always a direct overlap.
And this is where you go down and you say, he was asked the question, is Oregon the best one-loss team?
Texas clearly the number 2 one-loss team. Alabama, the number 3 one-loss team. Oregon, as we all assume, is sitting at the number 6 spot. But we need to kind of look at Oregon's resume a bit. We saw Ohio State on the 1 line last week because of one reason. Why? That was the resume.
Yeah.
And we are not paying attention to the resume as it relates to Oregon. They have 1 win against a team with a winning record at the moment. That team is Utah. Their next best win is 4-5 Colorado. The next best win after that is 4-5 Washington State. Whereas Texas has beaten 5 teams with a winning record, including a win on the road in Tuscaloosa, and Alabama's beaten 4. So if we're really going to value the eye test, and I think it should absolutely be a factor, there needs to be more of a debate about the one-loss teams.
Okay. He is right. You know, like
sure,
you play the schedule that's in front of you, but this is the same guy. And like, I love the tweet that he had is like, guys, his issue is not with Oregon. It isn't. It's with the way that the committee is sorting Oregon, Alabama, and Texas. Because if you look, Greg McElroy puts out a top 10, I think it is, every week based on his eye test of what he sees and what he believes. Do you know who he had number 6?
Who?
Oregon. He has Oregon because he's sitting there and he's like, I believe that by the eye test that Oregon is the 6th best team.
Sure.
What he's arguing here is, okay,
if you're saying use resume, then use resume. If you're saying you're using eye test, then use eye test. Be consistent.
But I don't think what the committee has done is actually incorrect. He wants consistency, but do you want him to get it right, or do you want him to just be consistent across the board? Because
both.
You can't though. Because how do you parse through? And what he's saying against Oregon is all valid and it's all true, right? They have not. Colorado was an absolute fraud when they came into Autzen Stadium 3-0 and ranked.
Protection.
It was not. That is not a good team. They are 1-5 since playing Oregon. Okay, or 1-4 since playing Oregon. Washington State has not won a game.
Yeah.
Since losing to Arizona the week before, or week before, 44-6 before they played Oregon. Okay, they have lost 5 in a row, and it has been a downhill skid. But guess what they were when they came into Autzen Stadium? They were a top 25 team.
Weren't they like 20th?
Yeah, they were a top 25 team, and that's the thing is that like this is where the bending of it all to make the SEC look better.
Oh no, he makes that right turn to Albuquerque to like, yeah, but it's like, okay. Yeah. We all know that LSU is not that team.
In Oregon, and when you watch them play, are they playing a schedule that is weak? Yeah. But has there been any game that has been in doubt, with the exception of the Washington game?
No.
Since they went to Texas Tech.
Tech was spooky, sure.
That game was, they went on the road, a hostile environment, a place that
tortillas are flying.
Well, they had not lost a game.
Yeah.
Like their head coach, Joey McGuire, had not lost a home game there. And then you get out of that one, you learn how to win on the road. And then since then, they've won 55-10, 42-6, 42-6, lost 36-33, won 38-24, 35-6, 63-19. They've been absolutely dismantling teams. And that's what they're looking at too, is they're saying, all right, yeah, they haven't had that. They'll get it. They'll get it. They'll get Oregon State. They'll get Washington. And here's the thing. At the end of the day, the 4 best teams will still be playing. And we won't have this conversation.
Because the title games are going to sort stuff out.
If Alabama runs through their schedule, guess what? They're going to have a meeting with undefeated Georgia in the SEC championship game, and the winner goes to the playoff.
Yeah.
The winner goes to the playoff. Now, if Bama beats Georgia,
they're probably both going.
They're probably both going to go because that's what they always do, right?
When was the last time a 2-1 loss SEC teams didn't go?
But that's the beauty of the rankings. That's why you're saying, do you want them to get it right or get the consistency? Because does anybody believe that if Georgia doesn't run the table and have their one loss be against Alabama in the conference championship game, that they don't deserve a seat at that table? Because they do. And like that's the thing, is that you can always look back to, all right,
Feels like we have this conversation literally every year.
it will come down to the one-loss teams, but this also happens. Every time we have these conversations, these one-loss teams find a way to lose, right? They find a way to stub their toe.
For the most part, but also it always comes down to this. Beginning of the year, the Pac-12 was getting their love. And people around the country were actually, for the first time in a very long time, like, no, this maybe the Pac-12 is for real.
Yeah.
And it was, and it has been. But now that it's crunch time, you're seeing the big media machine that drives the SEC. Remember, who runs the SEC network? It is ESPN. So there's going to be a lot of force there. The other big media deal in the country is the Big Ten. So they're going to put their forces behind this. And if you think that isn't reality, that is what it is. And this is the last year of this. And this is, honestly, this is another contributing factor to why the Pac-12 is falling apart.
And here is where, with what Greg McElroy is saying, I think that where I land on, and I'll say, don't hang your head on a win in September, because these are completely different teams.
100%.
Alabama looks like a different animal compared to what they were in week 2 when Alabama played Texas.
Yes.
Okay.
And Texas is kind of riding that wave too.
Teams in September are completely different than teams in November. And with Greg McElroy saying there's nothing on Oregon's resume to this point, well, Alabama's remaining schedule is Kentucky, Chattanooga, and Auburn. Texas's schedule is TCU, Iowa State, and Texas Tech. The Ducks play USC. They go to Arizona State. And then they have the highest-ranked 2-loss team, according to the committee, in Oregon State. They're going to have their opportunities to prove him wrong and shut him up, because those teams may have had front-loaded schedules. Oregon's got those tests at the back end of it.
Yeah, Tennessee, Chattanooga, probably not as good as any of those teams that Oregon's about to play.
And there's very, very much a possibility that Oregon proves McElroy right? They lose a game. They lost Civil War last year to Oregon State, right? USC does not lack talent coming into Autzen Stadium this week. You go to Tempe, how many weird things have happened in Tempe, Arizona before? Or the state of Arizona for any Pac-12 team.
Yes.
So we could all see everything is just going to sort itself out. And Greg McElroy, though, is not wrong. They use the criteria how they want to do it.
It just changes to whatever suits their purpose.
But I believe that everything that they've done to this point, they're setting themselves up to get the 4 most deserving and 4 best teams into the college football playoff at the end of the day.
For sure. Coming up next, do you want to see what happens when a Cardinals fan and an Astros fan come together to laugh at the Yankees? But first, here's the Big Kahuna with the Sports Center update.
You mind if I have some of your tasty beverage to wash this down?
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
If you've been arrested for DUI, you need a team of attorneys that you can put your trust into. Call Reynolds Defense Firm today, online at reynoldsdefensefirm.com. First on The Fan, the top 8 of the second college football playoff rankings remains the same as the first. Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State are your current 4-team playoff. Washington and Oregon remain on the outside looking in at 5 and 6. Elsewhere in the Pac-12, Oregon State leaping 4 spots to number 12. Utah stays at 18. Arizona enters the fray at number 21, while both UCLA and USC fall out of the rankings. The Trailblazers are back at it tonight, starting a 3-game road trip at the Kings. No Scoot, no Robert Williams, no Anthony Simons. 7 o'clock tip on Root Sports. The Blazers are 8.5-point underdogs. In the NFL, Ian Rappaport of NFL Network reports the practice window for Vikings receiver Justin Jefferson being opened this week. The team will have 21 days to activate him after landing on injured reserve with a hamstring injury. NFL Network also reporting Patriots cornerback J.C. Jackson not traveling with the team to Frankfurt, Germany for their game Sunday against the Colts due to a combination of factors, including missing curfew, performance, and his attitude. Giants will start undrafted free agent Tommy DeVito at QB Sunday against the Cowboys, with Matt Barkley serving as the backup. And one note from baseball, John Heyman of the New York Post reports the Angels hiring Ron Washington as their new manager. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust, the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Watch and wager on pro and college football from across the country at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Every day, get the NFL headlines delivered straight to you. Follow the Best Football Show with Brian Baldinger on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
At Spirit
hysterically at Yankees general
Buddy.
manager Brian Cashman, who after the Yankees imploded this year, has held a press conference in which he talked about the current status of the Yankees, and it gets violently dumber the longer it goes.
We're always looking to improve on process. So last year, everybody thought that, well, first and foremost on the I want to make sure, and I think it's been put out there. So people talk about we're analytically driven, right? Do you know we're the least large? We have the smallest analytics department in the American League East.
Hell yeah.
Is that a shocker to you guys? We have the largest pro scouting department in all of baseball. Is that a shocker to you, to everybody? Shouldn't be. But no one's doing their deep dives. They're just throwing ammunition and bullshit and accusing us of being run analytically. Analytics is an important spoke in our wheel, but it should be in everybody's will, and it really is an important spoke in every operation that's having success. There's not one team that's not using it. We're no different. But to be said we're guided by analytics as a driver, it's a lie.
Just real quickly,
Yeah.
the best teams in baseball have the most. The Baltimore Orioles, the Houston Astros, and up until this last year and a half, the St. Louis Cardinals have 3 of the biggest and most prolific analytics departments, not only in baseball but all of sports.
Yeah, it's amazing that he flexed on. We have the lowest analytics budget in Major League in the AL East. Does that surprise you? Not really, because you finished second to last in the division. And by the way, the top 2 teams in your division, the Baltimore Orioles and the Tampa Bay Rays, they are analytically driven teams. You mentioned the Astros. They've lived in that world.
Yes.
And the turnaround that the Baltimore Orioles have had is based off of the Astros front office that left Houston, went to Baltimore. Look,
the Braves doing the contracts when they did with the Braves was based on analytics and projections, and that's how they got them locked up a year and 2 years early, so that to be blunt, they underpaid superstars.
And the reason, for Brian Cashman, I understand where he's trying to go with this.
The big dumb idiot?
He's sitting there and he's like, hey, you guys are just wrong and misguided in your criticisms of our failures. You guys are wrong. And what?
Don't criticize the fact that we're analytically driven. Criticize the fact that we're stuck in our ways and we're still 30 years behind everybody else.
Unintentionally, what he did was he's like, no, it's not the analytics fault, guys. It's my fault because I'm the guy who's assembling this roster. I'm in charge of all of it. It's like, nah, buddy, I don't know if that was the best defense that you could have used, because that puts even more on his shoulders. That it's like, if he probably should blame it on the numbers, but he can't.
Deflect, brother. This is very strong. We're all trying to find the guy responsible for this vibes. It's just
that's tough.
Oh my God. I know that there is an aversion to analytics across sports, not only in older generations, but younger generations as well. It's pervasive in basketball with hooper culture. It's the same kind of thing. You're taking the natural balance out of the game. And look, do I want every manager to operate on analytics? No, I do not want. I do not want to see pitchers pulled at 75 pitches every freaking night. I am so sick and tired of there not being complete game pitchers.
It's brutal.
It has fundamentally changed the game. I do not want to see 6 different pitcher swaps an inning. I do not want to see the manager hit statistics going up against every single pitcher.
Yeah.
Sometimes operating on feel is okay.
Being a dude.
Yes, I mean,
a gal.
Bruce Bochy embraces analytics, but that guy has vibes, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vibes there.
Oh, man.
And a lot of baseball in particularly is operating on vibes and feel. But if you are consistently making mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, which, hi Yankees, you've been doing.
Yeah.
You've been spending a lot of money on guys that haven't worked. You're trading for guys that haven't worked. You haven't developed anybody other than Aaron Judge.
Well, they have a Gold Glove winning shortstop who's a rookie in Volpe.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
good.
who just
He's
got
really
to the
good.
majors, which is now just in their program.
I think their minor leagues have been okay. They've been good on developing talent.
They have not.
Aaron Judge is a pretty good one too. I mean, the guys that they hang on to are really stinking good.
They've had so many, we forget of all of the guys that have gone through. And again, baseball's difficult in that, but that kind of lends itself to, well, if they're not analytically driven, maybe that's why when they're sifting through, there's so much falling through.
I think you have their worst analytic they have is the second highest payroll in baseball.
And how many wins?
Yeah, 82. They have injuries, and paying guys with injury history too is also a big issue, and it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't type deals, because in baseball somebody will always outbid you. I mean, that sport is riddled with the overpay, the injury-prone guy. And they just got a couple of guys on that roster that are always banged up, and they're not working out. And Like, look, that's one of the things that analytics, and if you are an analytically driven franchise, the numbers will tell you whether you should punt on a guy or you should hang on to the guy. And that's where it's like you're overpaying. And that's not to say you like let Aaron Judge walk, because you don't. He's a transcendent talent. You keep a guy like him. But like there's a lot of teams that remember the Carlos Correa thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like Carlos Correa, like it was
contract.
And everybody's like, why is Houston letting him go? It's like because there was an injury risk.
Yes.
And then the Mets went and they were going to give him that massive contract, and they were like, oh boy.
They saw the medicals, went,
the Twins,
you want him?
Well, the Twins said yes, and then they said no, and then after everybody else punted on, they're like,
all right, the Giants, and then he went back to the Twins,
and then they're like, okay, we'll do it. And Carlos Correa worked out, right? But it's not just the short term; it's the long term where the numbers don't bear out that his ankle is going to hold up, and that's where like. You need that. It's not just medical staff; it's your analytics department too, saying, "Hey."
That's why the St. Louis Cardinals
we're doing it.
They didn't re-up with Albert Pujols.
Albert Pujols, yeah.
It wasn't because the St. Louis Cardinals ownership is cheap.
Yeah.
It was because the projections. It was one of those things that was just going to tear them apart.
All right, Yankees. That was funny.
There you go. So that for all you Yankees fans out there, that's why you are who you are. All right, we'll put a wrap and bow on this show. Danny Dusty, Danny the Fan.
yesterday. I don't know if you are treat worthy. The candy conversation is still something that
it's lingering.
It lingers big time.
Stuck in my craw.
Also,
yeah.
Also, I don't know if you know this, but Suk is also a pro Twizzler.
You guys are monsters.
Yeah.
But if the goating the banana Laffy Taffy, again, underrated, you goated it.
The thing is, like, as soon as you said that, my salivary glands just and I went.
Yeah, serial killer.
Yep.
Like, these are all of the signs.
That's going to be my undoing, and somebody's going to go to a crime scene and like, banana Laffy Taffy. Who the hell eats this?
They'd be like,
damn you, Laffy Taffy!
There's a
Swaths of denim.
There was a kid hiding underneath the bed, and they heard him as the final words to their parents that Danny murdered was some Laffy Taffy joke.
I remember
what he said.
It's the scent of banana Laffy Taffy in the air, like triggers a core memory.
Like what is a witch's favorite class? Spelling.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a Laffy Taffy joke right there, huh? Yeah, those are the dad jokes on those are.
I don't know why I immediately went to Tori.
Oh, well,
Spelling.
Tori Spelling. Tori Spelling.
Probably because my wife's name's Tori. Could be.
It's okay.
I don't know.
I don't even know how you got to Tori. Period. Because it was a witch joke.
That's some circular logic there.
Yeah, that was always an incredible one. Is Beverly Hills 90210 star quite literally lived that life. She was about that life of Beverly Hills and living in the 90210.
Don't they own one of the mansions along the?
They did.
The golf course?
Yeah, old dad. I think he sold it. I think that was a big one to untangle there. You're talking LA Country Club where that was the USO